and postvention. She has worked extensively with the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Crisis Intervention Association of Pennsylvania, the National Organization for Victim Assistance, and the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. Her work includes working with families, schools, and communities experiencing trauma and victims of families of the U.S. Air Flight 427 and 9/11. She was trained by 2020 by Cornell University and the New York Governor's Office in the dynamics of COVID-19 and dedicated time working with professionals, families, and communities affected by the pandemic. Janice was recognized for her work both nationally and internationally when she received the Crystal Award. She was the recipient of the General Colin Powell Leadership Award for her work with families, the community, and the military. And Janice has published several articles and the co-author of several books, including Caring in Times of Crisis and Can You Ask My Dad What It's Like in Heaven? She holds a master's degree in social work and a doctorate in educational leadership. And as a certified therapy dog handler, she and Sir Tibbs, a 2023, 24, 25 National Therapy Dog Superstar, work with media and radio. Other work with Sir Tibbs includes visits with hospitals, physicians, offices, essential workers, libraries, schools, churches, and bereavement. Dr. Jan also enjoys teaching classes and workshops for children, teens, and adults. And she is also the sole proprietor of the Haven Himalaya Salt Cave here in Lilydale. And to Janet, it is both a pleasure and privilege to be of service. And Sir Tibbs is my little neighbor dog, and they come by and visit me in their golf cart. You'll see her and Tibbs running around all over Lilydale and videotaping, and she's such an advocate and a proud speaker for Lilydale, and you're such a hardworking medium, and she doesn't say no, and I'm proud to call you my friend. So thank you for being here, Jan.
It's really all about Tibbs. He'll be on the radio on Thursday, 100.7 Star Odyssey, if you want to check him out. For real. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Truly a pleasure and privilege to be of service. Thank you, Nancy, for the opportunity. Margaret, thank you for the music, as always. And thank you all for being here, and also for the Zoom family and family of the heart. It's been an interesting week in the best way. Usually I would be up here with post notes, and I opted not to do the post notes today. I opted not to really write anything. And I thought I would start with a couple of real simple things like grace and gratitude. And I want you to think about the G square word of this, grace and gratitude. What does it mean? To my area of knowledge, grace is something that's laid on me that's unmerited. I didn't deserve it. It was just given. And when I think about that, and I think about the bigger picture, I'm right here where I'm supposed to be. In my life, there aren't any mistakes. In my life, I'm not sure if there's accidents. What I do know is that everything that I have gone through in my life, professional and personal, has brought me to where I am today. No matter what it is, the good and the not so good. And that's where I get to stand and be with you. And I get to meet you here and now in this moment about presence, because this is all we got. We could leave here today and something could happen where we don't get the opportunity to see a person or a pet or be in this place of worship again. And I did say a place of worship. I walk in this with reverence, and I remember Nancy and I were doing a podcast, and I used the word reverence with 427. And a lot of the work that I've done is about doing it with reverence, or being present and being with reverence. If you don't know what 427 was, US Air 427 was a plane crash that went down outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All 132 crew members were killed. One of our close friends was supposed to be on that plane. Again, go back to grace and gratitude. And she opted to give up her seat. She was a flight attendant, and she gave it up to one of her closest friends. So when the plane went down, and I started, because this is the impetus of my work for crisis work, but also for healing. You know, I remember seeing the plume of smoke, remember knowing something happened, and trying to get in touch with my friend to make sure that her sister was okay. Because they aren't only friends, they're family of the heart. So that's where a lot of my work began. And I talk about that because that's what we do here. You know, by the grace of God, one word can change someone's life today. And that's what a healer is to me. It's not about a piece of paper. It's not about a certification. It's how we can make a difference in someone else's life, whether it's a person, a pet, an animal, or a community. So when I look at that, it makes me go to kindness and community. And you might think, Jan, what does kindness and community have to do with anything? When I look at that, I can say right now that we've all had challenging times and that there's still challenging times that exist. Again, please remember that my impetus for trauma work professionally was 427. So I don't have a filter. Neighbor Nancy knows that. I definitely don't have a filter. And I'm from the 412 area code, Mr. Rogers. Many of you might know who he is. If you don't, you might want to Google him. But he was a Presbyterian minister. He started his work at Arsenal in Pittsburgh, PA, which was a think tank for child development. He knew what he was doing. And he always said, be a good neighbor. I try, and I said try, and live by that to the best of my ability, no matter where I'm at. Whether it's here, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's traveling. So what does it mean to be a good neighbor? That's something I want you to think about. Coming to Lilydale, I learned what good neighbors were. I look at the old timers. I look at Carlton. I look at Roy and Charlie that welcomed my spouse and me in. We weren't the sisters, we were partners, we were married. In the day of spiritualism, anyone that was of the same gender, they were called brothers and sisters. I do believe that today is June 1st, National Pride Day. So for all those that embrace it, amen. And for those that don't, that's okay too. Why? Because we were the birthmark of free thinkers as spiritualists. This is the one place, and there were thousands of camps during the antebellum era, thousands of religious camps. And we were the one camp that stood out, that could have free thinkers come. It didn't matter your age, your gender, your socioeconomic background. It didn't matter what you believed and what you didn't, if you were agnostic or atheist. It didn't matter if you were male or female. We know our history. Marion Skidmore welcomed Susan B. Anthony along with our community. Susan B. Anthony was turned away from Chautauqua Institution, from Chautauqua Camp, at the last moment, not be able to speak on women and on voting rights. She came here and she was welcomed. So let's go back to some of the old timers that I know. I look at, honestly, the three sisters, Gretchen, Jacqueline, and Sherry Lee, that welcomed me, and they were tough on me, I'm not gonna lie. Gretchen was very tough on me, and I told Jack that. It's one of her legacies. I look at people like Patty Lillis, John White, Shauna Spalding. Some of you know these names, some of you are not gonna know them, but they were part of the pillars for us. I look at Carol Gasper, John Gasper, Sue Glazier, Emmy Chetkin, and that list goes on. When we look at this, and it ties in with spiritualism and spirituality, we're the largest spiritualist camp in the world. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. We're the largest spiritualist camp in the world. We are the largest center for the study of spiritualism.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Because we're stewards. We're supposed to be stewards. We're supposed to be the examples. We're supposed to do better. We're supposed to be better. I need to do better. We need to do better as a community. I've seen a lot go down here. I will not stand up and deny it. I won't. COVID was one of the nastiest times, other than having a national, international pandemic and what happened in our community. Everything that we did to keep it safe, all the safety precautions, having to follow the rules and regs of the federal government, being on the board. Nancy might be holding her breath on this one. When we look at that, and we need to do better, there's so much stuff outside there that I will not be a part of. You know, I work with kids and they'll be like, Dr. D says no trauma drama. We don't do that stuff. That's 3 doors down. So when we look at that and I say that we need to do better, I need to do better. We are stewards. We are the example for the world when they look at us. Think about that. People give up everything to get here to our summer camp. Everything. Money, family, just to have the opportunity to walk through our grounds. I always say, coming through our gates, something spiritual, mystical, magical happens. I don't know what it is, but it's a beautiful thing. Met a beautiful woman from Puerto Rico, and she said, Jan, it took me 4 or 5 years to get here. I saved up every penny. My family gave me money to fly here. Boy, does that not make me feel humbled. Or when I meet a beautiful soul from Portugal, and she said, this is the only place I've ever dreamt of coming to. So not only do we have people that come from our neighboring hamlets, United States, our sister Canada, Portugal, Guam, Abu Dhabi, the United Kingdom, Spain, England, Ireland, Iceland. I need to do better. We need to do better. Because I always want them to feel like they're welcome, that they get to come home. And if I'm not making sense to you, that's okay. You still have to listen to me? Continue. And I'm okay with that. So when I look at Marion Skidmore, who said, this isn't always will be a spiritualist camp. That's what we're about. That's what I'm about. And if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. Really, I am. Trust me. I have dealt with more stuff than you will ever know. And I am more than okay with that. And a lot of this is about having a sense of community and building community. Look at the times we're in. People that were best friends are no longer best friends. Families are separated because of other people's beliefs. And the one common bond that can bring us together is love. I don't know, at least my nephew at the age of 5 told me that. So I have a tattoo on my arm that says love. And my nephew, my father passed in 1998. My nephew was 5 at the time. There's no way in this world, this parallel, this realm, they could have met. And CJ looks at me and he goes, taps on my arm. I'm like, honey, what are you doing? He said, all there is love. And I'm like, he's too young for the Beatles. Think about this. I said, honey, what'd you say? He said, all there is love. And I looked at him, I said, who told you that? He said, your dad, he's sitting right here. And I looked at that child. I said, oh, buckle up, buttercups. We're in a mood now. And there you go. All there is love. As we talk about this, as I talk about this, principles before personalities, I will always do my best to hold my integrity and my respect. Within 30 seconds of consciousness, I know when I've done wrong. My mom would say, own it, claim it, apologize, clean it up, and move on. I'm like, wait, what? Own it, claim it, apologize, clean it up, and move on. I got 30 seconds to correct myself. That's it. So when we look at this, we're looking at building a sense of community. And we can do that through living together, through believing together, and through growing together. In case you didn't hear that, living together, being together, and growing together. Mr. Rogers said, look for the heroes. Look for the heroes. I want you to take a second or 2 or 3 or 4 or a day and think about who are your heroes. Who really are your heroes? I look at Matthew, I'll get emotional. And to see him here today just brings joy because I watched him grow up. He did gardening at my house. And at the age of 16, out of some crazy idea, I throw in my truck keys with him and John. I said, hey, can you do this? And they're like, oh my God, she gave us the Tacoma keys. And I look at him, and he's one of my heroes. I look at the heroes in my life, the people that I surround with, family and family of the heart. And when I look at that, I have a kid in my life, his name's RJ. He's brilliant. He tries to get me tech savvy. He's 15. He does corporate work. I'm not joking. Website design's awesome. And yes, I'm very protective of him. And he's brilliant. And yet he looks at me for being brilliant. I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to turn the buzzing off. I look at Daniel's son, and I call him Daniel's son because that's his name. Well, to me. 80% of what he does is read lips. 80%. You'd never know. This kid's trying to sit me down and show me technology again. Some of you understand this. Give me a projector, I'm okay. Give me a computer, I'm out. And the love that this kid shines with is incredible. I look at Luke, who looked at me the other day, and his feet are moving, He's smiling, He looks at me, he says, I gotta keep moving. I'm like, all right, dude. He said, because if I stop, I'll cry. And I said, Luke, how about if we just take a pause and we'll cry together? And then we get to a little bit more serious stuff. And then I look at Addie, beautiful soul. Not a doubt, she's shining down. And Tibbs and I got to go and have a meal with her, knowing it was her last with us. And then we look at Tibbs and the healing that he does, because then we had to do bereavement work. And he sat with Lil at her desk at a school and just shined. I look at Tibbs, and yes, of course I'm going to sneak him in here to this talk. There's his little tie-dye on. He rocks. You know, when he goes up to Bennett, and Bennett has multi-handicapped challenges, not issues, challenges. And you can't touch Bennett's hands. And Tibbs goes up and is touching Bennett's hands, and I have no idea what's going to happen. And Mom, Kelly, says, just let it go and see what happens. And Bennett responds. And then the next thing you know, he's a cuddler. Tibbs is jumping up and cuddling with him. And we're like, let it go. And if we look at all this is about healing. And that's what we're supposed to do as human beings. And if we're not, let me know. I'm in the wrong place right now. Again, it's not about a piece of paper. It's not about a certification. It's not about a degree. All I've done most of my life has been worked with death and trauma. Henceforth, no filter. These are some of the, these are just some of the quotes that people like giggle at with me. And I take it down to ground zero. And when I talk about that, it takes a lot to upset me, takes a lot to push me. I am a very, very patient human being. But when you get me to my place, look out. And often I'll start, nobody died yet. You know, someone be in crisis, I'll look. I say, anybody die? And they'll be like, no. I'm like, okay, I think we could get through this part. Okay, now think about that. Sometimes I'll say, I can't speak to that. Someone will say something, I'll be like, I can't speak to that. One of the ones that I have so many people saying is, how'd that work out for you? Think about this for a second. Stand in your truth. I love this one. I love this because it's about Tibbs. With love. I could be having a come to Jesus meeting with one of my kids, one of my family, someone in the family. It doesn't matter who. And I will look at them. And at the end, I'll say, with love. And they'll be like, with love. It softens it because that's where we're supposed to be coming from. There's an administrator that I get to see when he comes to visit that I say to him, Joel, thanks for coming. And the first time he looked at me like I was on puppy crack. And I said, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming. And then next thing you know, you got about 50, 60 other adults saying that to each other every day. Thanks for coming. Thanks for noticing. Wow, that's a big return. Thanks for noticing. So as we look at this, where am I going with this? I don't know, it's a good clue. I don't know. I really don't know. Actually, I do. We're supposed to do better. We're supposed to be better. I have to be better. I have to live by example. This is and always will be a spiritualist camp. If you want to make it something different when I'm around, and when neighbor Nancy's around. And the others that are in this room, okay. But we're about roots. We're about history. My religious history comes from my family sitting in the parlor in the 1800s, coming over from Sweden. We didn't have churches then. And that's where it began. And the cornerstone of the church was set in 1907. And I am so proud of where I come from. I am. Does that mean I was always good in church? No. Does that mean I played hooky in church? Yes. I will confess. No pun intended. But I am proud of where I've come from. We don't get here by accident. If you think we do, that's okay. How's that work out for you? Think about that with love. We don't. But I do know that we have the opportunity to change lives for the better. It's simple. We say hi. May I help you? Do you need the distilled water for your golf cart? I got it in the back. Do you need help getting up that step? I'm sorry that your pet passed away. What can I do? Many a times we did meals and took them to different houses because that's what you do. A little surprised early on that they ate my cooking, but that's okay. We're pretty good now. So as we look at this, am I past my 20? Okay, just checking. I had to throw that in there. When we look at this, I really want you to think about why you're here. Someone drag you today? Matthew, we'll talk later. I'm teasing. You know, being able to look at the role models in my life. Elaine Thomas, big role model. Man, did she teach me how to wear jeans underneath my ministerial robe. I like that. Okay? I look at Emmy, who broke from the norm to bring people together. Why? Because I will sit counsel with her. I look at Sue Glazier, and I'll say, can you tell me another story? It's not an easy road to get here, but it's worth it for me. I love Lily Dell. This is where you get to see me get emotional because I don't cry a lot. It's home. Home is what we choose. It's with family, family of the heart. I could be breaking bread at a table with Chrissy, someone I don't even know at a restaurant. I'll say, hey, you want to join us? I know how to have a good time. Trust me, a lot of picnickers here will invite me like, hey, I'm like, where are you from? And then, I had one family this past summer, and it just floored me. And she said, we want you to break bread with us. I'm like, I know good food, yeah. And she said, but we're Persian, is that okay? And I looked at her and I said, I couldn't be in a better seat. So can we break the barriers? That's what our ancestors, if you will, did. They did that. If you think it was hard to keep a spiritualist camp going, look at how many are left. I'm proud to be here. I earned my seat. All of you did. If you're here, there's not a mistake. We can talk about synchronicities, we can talk about miracles, we can talk about heavenly hellos. But I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And again, I'm only here because of everyone who has brought me to this point in my life. The good and the not so good. The kindred, the family of the heart, those little hellos. That worker at Starbucks giving me a coffee because he knew I was a hot mess driving to the hospital. He said, oh, honey child, you look like you're a hot mess. This is on the house. I'm like, can I have two? And I wrote a letter to his district manager about his kindness. We get to make choices all the time so we can look at change for the better and be there or not. I just want to circle back around to what it's really about. CJ said it best. Love is all there is. Thank you.